The Great Hall on Zentara Prime held representatives from 12 species. Daniel Price sat in the observation chamber and watched the alien leaders argue about humanity's place in their council. His aide Sophie Graham stood beside him, her datapad recording every word spoken below. Daniel had served as Earth's ambassador for 3 years. He understood how these meetings worked. The council made decisions slowly, with endless debate and careful votes. But today felt different. The alien leaders spoke with unusual speed and agreement. Vexter of the Cauldrus species stood at the center platform. His forearms gestured as he spoke. The humans have been council members for 50 years. In that time, they have shown nothing but aggression and dangerous growth. They refuse to limit their military. They refuse to slow their colony expansion. They act on emotion rather than logic. Daniel kept his face calm, but anger burned in his chest. Everything Vexter said was a lie or a twisted truth. Humans had followed every council law. Their military was smaller than most council species. Their colonies grew because humans worked hard and built good lives. Another council member spoke. This one belonged to the Vrelian species, a race that looked like walking crystals. The Cauldrus speak truth. Humans are unpredictable. They come from a world of constant danger. They bring that violence with them into peaceful space. Sophie leaned close to Daniel. They planned this, she whispered. This is not a normal debate. Daniel nodded slightly. He had noticed the same thing. Usually, at least 5 or 6 species would defend humanity. The Torvan liked humans. The Shenti respected Earth's diplomacy. But today, only 3 species spoke in humanity's favor. The rest seemed eager to vote against Earth. The vote came faster than Daniel expected. Vexter called for the decision only 2 hours into the meeting. One by one, the council species cast their votes on the giant display board. Each vote appeared as a colored light. Green meant humans could stay. Red meant banishment. Red lights filled the board. 9 species voted to banish Earth from council space. Only the Torvan, Rylax, and Shenti voted green. The decision was final. Vexter spoke with what Daniel thought might be satisfaction. The vote is complete. Humanity is ordered to remove all colonies, all ships, and all citizens from council territory. You have 90 days to leave. After that time, any human presence will be considered an invasion. Daniel stood up. His hand shook, but he kept his voice steady. The United Earth government will comply with this decision. We will begin withdrawal immediately. He turned and walked out of the observation chamber. Sophie followed close behind. They moved quickly through the curved hallways of the council building. Other species watched them pass. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked pleased. Once inside their private quarters, Daniel let his anger show. He hit the wall with his palm. 50 years. We spent 50 years following their rules, learning their ways, trying to fit into their system. And they throw us out like garbage. Sophie pulled out her datapad. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. Sir, something is wrong. I have been monitoring council communications all day. There is too much encrypted military traffic. Daniel looked at her. What do you mean? I mean, the council military channels have been very active for the past week. More active than normal. Commander Kyle Mason sent me a message an hour ago. He has been working inside their security networks. He found something. Sophie connected her datapad to the room's main screen. Alien text appeared, along with translation software that converted it to English. Daniel read the documents and felt his blood turn cold. The papers showed military plans. Attack vectors. Target lists. Fleet positions. The council had not just voted to banish humanity. They had already planned to attack Earth and every human colony. The strike would come on day 45 of the 90-day grace period. They expect us to start withdrawing, Sophie said quietly. Our ships will be scattered. Our colonies will be packing up. Our defenses will be weak. That is when they plan to hit us. Daniel read through more documents. The attack would use ships from 7 council species. The Cauldrith would lead the assault. They planned to destroy Earth's orbital platforms first, then hit the colonies. Human ships would be targeted during their withdrawal jumps. It was not banishment. It was genocide dressed up as enforcement of council law. How did Kyle get this? Daniel asked. He has been suspicious for months. He'd placed monitoring programs in their military networks. When the vote was announced, he started digging deeper. He found these plans 3 days ago. He has been verifying them since then. He is certain they are real. Daniel sat down heavily. His mind raced through options. They could warn Earth and prepare defenses. But the Council Armada would be huge. Even with preparation, humanity would suffer terrible losses. Earth itself might survive, but the colonies would be destroyed. Billions of humans would die, or they could run. Pack up everything in 90 days and try to get everyone to safety. But where? Council space covered most of the known galaxy. Human ships could not jump far enough to escape completely. The Council would hunt down refugees for years. There was a third option. An option that went against everything the Council claimed to value. An option that would make humanity look like the aggressors Vexter had accused them of being. They could strike first. Daniel stood and walked to the communication panel. He entered a secure military channel and waited. The connection took 30 seconds to establish. When the screen cleared, Admiral Helen Carter appeared. She was aboard the UHS Defiance, currently in orbit around Centaur Prime. Admiral, Daniel said, I am sending you encrypted files. Read them immediately. Then prepare your fleet. Helen's expression became serious as she received the files. Daniel watched her eyes move as she read. Her face grew hard. This is verified intelligence? She asked. Commander Mason verified it personally. The Council plans to attack us during our withdrawal. They voted to banish us as cover for genocide. Helen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. What are your orders, Ambassador? Daniel thought about Earth. He thought about the colonies where humans had built homes and raised families. He thought about humanity's future among the stars. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity had to make theirs. He remembered studying human history as a young man. He remembered reading about wars and conflicts across the centuries. He remembered one lesson that appeared again and again. When someone plans to kill you, waiting for them to strike first is how you die. Admiral, you have authorization. We strike before they give the order. Helen nodded slowly. Understood, Ambassador. I will contact Earth Command and begin preparations. How much time do we have? According to these files, they begin moving fleets into position in 48 hours. After that, we lose the element of surprise. Then we move in 48 hours. Helen's expression was grim but determined. Ambassador, this will change everything. Everything already changed, Daniel said. The moment they voted for our extinction, we are just choosing to survive. The communication ended. Daniel stood in the quiet room with Sophie beside him. Outside the windows, alien ships moved through the sky of Centaur Prime. Somewhere in that vast council space, human colonies existed peacefully. Families ate dinner. Children went to school. People lived their lives without knowing the sentence that had been passed on them. But now humanity would not wait for that sentence to be carried out. They would act. They would strike. They would show the Council that humans were not easy prey. Daniel felt the weight of what he had just done. He had authorized an act of war. But he also knew he had given humanity a chance to live. Send a message to Commander Mason. he told Sophie. "Tell him we need complete intelligence on Council fleet positions and shipyard locations. We have 48 hours to plan an attack that will save our species." Sophie nodded and began typing. Daniel looked out at the alien sky one more time. The Council had called humans dangerous and unpredictable. They had voted to banish Earth because they feared what humanity might become. They were about to learn that their fear had been completely justified. Admiral Helen Carter stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance and watched her officers work. The ship moved through space on what appeared to be a routine patrol. But nothing about the next 48 hours would be routine. Her communication officer looked up from his station. "Admiral, encrypted transmission from Earth. Presidential priority." Helen walked to her private ready room and closed the door. The screen activated and showed President Margaret Ellis sitting in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva. Military commanders filled the seats around her. "Admiral Carter," Margaret said, "we received Ambassador Price's intelligence package. My military advisors have been analyzing it for the past 2 hours. General Patrick Reeves has prepared several response scenarios. None of them are good." General Reeves appeared on a split screen. His gray hair and lined face showed his 40 years of military service. "Admiral, if we prepare a defensive posture and wait for their attack, our projections show we lose 60% of our colonies in the first wave. Earth survives, but takes heavy damage. Total casualties estimated at 4 billion people." Helen felt sick. 4 billion lives. The number was too large to truly understand. "If we attempt a full evacuation," Reeves continued, "we cannot move everyone in 90 days. Our transport capacity is not sufficient. We would have to abandon at least 20 colonies. That means leaving 3 billion people behind with no protection." Margaret leaned forward. "Which brings us to the third option, the one Ambassador Price initiated. A preemptive strike against Council military assets." Helen nodded. "I have already begun preliminary planning, Madam President. Commander Kyle Mason provided us with target locations. We have identified 12 critical sites. Shipyards, supply depots, and fleet staging areas. If we hit them simultaneously, we can destroy 60% of the Council's offensive capability before they know we are coming. And the civilian casualties?" Margaret asked. "Minimal if we are precise. These are military targets in isolated locations. We use our new rail weapons that penetrate shields. Fast strikes with immediate withdrawal. We can be in and out in 6 hours." Patrick spoke again. "The problem is political, Admiral. If we strike first, we look like the aggressors. We prove Vexter right. The Council will claim we attacked peaceful shipyards without provocation." Helen pulled up the intelligence files on her screen. "General, these documents show the Council planned genocide. We release these files to the galactic media at the same time we attack. The galaxy will see the truth. They voted to banish us, then planned to slaughter us during withdrawal." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Helen knew what the President was thinking. This decision would define Earth's future. It would determine whether humanity survived or died. There would be no second chances. "If I authorize this," Margaret said slowly, "thousands of people will die. Council military personnel who are just following orders. Some of them might not even know about the genocide plan." "Yes, Madam President," Helen said. "But if we do not act, billions of our people will die. People who did nothing except try to build lives among the stars." Margaret closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her expression was hard. "You have authorization, Admiral. Coordinate with our other fleet commanders. Strike in 48 hours. Make it count." The transmission ended. Helen sat alone in her ready room and felt the weight of what was coming. She had served in Earth's Navy for 26 years. She had fought pirates and protected colonies. But she had never started a war. She returned to the bridge and called her senior officers together. Captain Andrew Cole commanded the UHS Retribution, one of 15 battle cruisers in the attack force. His face appeared on the main screen along with 14 other captains. Captains, you have all received the target packages. We launch in 48 hours. Simultaneous jumps to 12 locations. The goal is to cripple their offensive capability before they can mobilize. Questions? Andrew spoke first. Admiral, some of these targets are deep in Council space. If something goes wrong and we cannot jump out immediately, we will be trapped. That is correct, Captain. That is why precision is critical. You hit your target and you leave. No heroics. No extended engagements. 6 hours maximum from jump in to jump out. Another captain raised a concern. What about Council response during the attack? They will scramble defense forces. Commander Mason is implementing electronic warfare protocols, Helen explained. Your ships will jam local communications. By the time the Council realizes what is happening across multiple systems, we will be gone. Helen looked at the faces of her captains. They were scared. She could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They understood what was at stake. I know what I am asking of you, Helen said. I know this seems wrong. We are attacking first. We are starting a war. But the war was already started when they planned to kill us. We are just refusing to die quietly. The captains nodded. Andrew spoke again. Admiral, my crew is ready. We will not fail. See that you do not, Captain. All of humanity is counting on us. The meeting ended. Helen began the careful work of positioning her ships. The Third Fleet consisted of 37 vessels spread across local space. They had to move into position without alerting Council observers. Each ship needed to be at its jump point, exactly on time. Commander Kyle Mason worked from the intelligence ship, UHS Watchful. He sent Helen updated information every 6 hours. Council fleet movements, security patrol schedules, communication protocols to jam. His work would make the difference between success and disaster. Sophie Graham arrived from Zentara Prime with Ambassador Price. They came aboard Defiance on a diplomatic shuttle. Helen met them in her ready room. Ambassador, Helen said, I did not expect you to join us. Daniel looked tired. He had not slept since discovering the Council's plans. I gave the order to attack. I need to see it through. If this goes wrong, I want to be here. And if it goes right, then I want to be here for that too. Daniel sat down heavily. How are your crews handling this? They are scared but focused. They understand why we are doing this. Helen poured 3 cups of coffee from her personal supply. Real coffee from Earth, not the synthetic version most ships used. What about the Council? Do they suspect anything? Sophie answered. Vexter made a public statement about humanity's banishment. He seemed very satisfied. The other Council species are already discussing how to divide up human colony worlds. They think we will leave quietly. They are in for a surprise, Helen said. The hours passed slowly. Helen walked through the ship, talking to her crew. She visited engineering where technicians prepared the rail weapons. She stopped by the fighter bay where pilots ran final checks on their craft. She spent time in the mess hall, eating with young officers who would soon face combat. Captain Andrew Cole sent her a personal message. She watched the video in her quarters late at night. Andrew sat in his own ready room, looking at the camera. Admiral, I wanted to record this before the mission. I have a daughter named Katie. She is 7 years old. She lives with her mother on Earth. If something happens to me tomorrow, I want her to know why I did this. Andrew paused and seemed to gather his thoughts. Katie, if you were watching this, it means I did not come home. But I want you to understand something. The people in the council voted to make us leave. That was bad, but we would have gone. We would have found new homes somewhere else. But they did not just want us to leave. They wanted to kill us. They wanted to kill you and your mom and everyone on Earth. So we had to do something hard. We had to fight back before they could hurt us. I know that seems wrong. I know attacking first is not what good people do. But sometimes, Katie, being good means protecting the people you love. Even if it means doing something that scares you. Andrew looked directly at the camera. I love you, sweetheart. I am doing this so you can grow up. So you can have a future. Tell your mom, I am sorry, I was not there more. Tell her this mattered. Tell her we saved humanity. The video ended. Helen sat in the dark and felt tears on her face. She wiped them away and stood up. Andrew was right. This mattered. They were saving humanity. The cost would be high, but the alternative was extinction. She returned to the bridge as the countdown reached 6 hours. Ships across council space moved into final positions. Jump coordinates were triple-checked. Weapons were armed. Crews stood ready. Commander Mason sent the final intelligence update. Admiral, council fleets are beginning to move. 3 task forces are heading toward human border regions. They are moving ahead of schedule. If we wait any longer, they will be in position to respond to our attacks. Helen looked at the tactical display. Every piece was in place. 37 human ships ready to strike at the heart of Council military power. It was time. She opened the channel to all ships in the attack force. Hundreds of faces appeared on her screens. Captains, crew members, and fighter pilots all looked at her. This is Admiral Carter. In 2 hours we jump. We are about to do something that will change human history. We are going to strike first against an enemy that planned our destruction. Some people will call this wrong. They will say we are the aggressors. But we know the truth. We are survivors. We are protecting our species. We are ensuring humanity has a future. Helen paused and let her words sink in. I will not lie to you. The UHS Retribution dropped out of jump space above Vorthik. Captain Andrew Cole gripped his command chair as the massive Caldrith shipyard appeared on the main view screen. The station was enormous, easily 50 kilometers across. 16 warships sat in various stages of construction along its outer docks. All systems active, his tactical officer reported. Weapons ready. Enemy station is not responding to our presence yet. Andrew checked his tactical display. 8 other human ships had jumped in with him. They appeared around the shipyard in a perfect formation. The Council defenders had no time to react. All ships, this is retribution. Engage targets as planned. Fire at will. The new rail weapons that Earth had developed fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. They did not use energy that could be blocked by shields. Instead, they punched through barriers with pure force. The first volley hit the shipyard's power core. Explosions rippled across the station. Lights flickered and died. The Caldrith finally realized they were under attack. Their defense platforms began to rotate toward the human ships, but it was already too late. Target the docked warships, Andrew ordered. I want every one of them destroyed. The Retribution fired again. Rail slugs tore through the hull of a half-built destroyer. The ship broke apart in a shower of debris. Next to it, another warship exploded as human weapons found its fuel storage. A Caldrith defense platform finally managed to fire back. Energy beams lanced toward the human ships. The UHS Striker took a hit on its port side. Armor plating melted away. Striker reporting moderate damage. The communications officer said. They are still operational. Tell them to continue the mission, Andrew said. He watched as more warships died in their construction cradles. How many targets remaining? 11 warships left. Multiple secondary explosions on the station. Their main reactor is failing. Andrew felt no satisfaction in the destruction. This was necessary work, nothing more. Each warship they destroyed was one less ship that could attack human colonies. One less weapon pointed at Earth. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was done, 16 Cauldrith warships were nothing but wreckage. The shipyard itself was a dying hulk, venting atmosphere and spinning slowly out of control. Thousands of Cauldrith workers were dead. Andrew tried not to think about that. All ships, form up for jump. We leave in 2 minutes. Across Council space, 11 other battles were happening at exactly the same time. At the Galactic supply depot. Admiral Helen Carter watched from the bridge of the Defiance as human fighters swarmed the storage facilities. The depot held fuel, weapons, and spare parts for the Council's planned attack on humanity. Commander Lisa Bennett led the fighter squadrons with skill. Blue Squadron, hit the fuel tanks. Red Squadron, focus on the weapons storage. Green Squadron, cover our exit. Lisa's voice came through the communications clearly. The fighters moved like a swarm of angry insects. They were faster and more maneuverable than the Council's defensive craft. Lisa had trained her pilots for months. Now that training showed its value. Fuel tanks erupted in massive fireballs. Weapons storage units detonated in chain reactions. The supply depot, which had taken the Council 5 years to build, was destroyed in 23 minutes. All squadrons, return to your carriers. We are jumping out in 90 seconds. Helen watched the tactical display. The attack was going perfectly. Every target was being hit according to plan. The Council's offensive capability was evaporating before her eyes. But then something went wrong. On Zentara Prime, Vexter stood in the Council Emergency Command Center and stared at the reports flooding in. Attacks everywhere. Human forces striking at military targets across 6 sectors. Impossibly coordinated. Devastatingly effective. How did they know? One of his aides asked. How did they find our fleet positions? Vexter's forearms trembled with rage. They've been spying on us. They knew about the attack plan. They struck first. More reports arrived. The shipyard at Vorthik the 7th destroyed. The supply depot at Kellic 6 gone. Fleet staging areas across Council space under assault. In less than 30 minutes, the Council had lost more military assets than in the previous century of peace. Send the recall order, Vexter commanded. Every Council ship is to return to defensive positions. Protect our core worlds. His military commander hesitated. Leader, if we recall our fleets, the humans will escape. We can pursue them, destroy their ships while they are scattered, and leave our worlds defenseless? Vexter turned on him. No, the humans have shown they are willing to strike anywhere. We protect what we have left. The commander bowed and sent the orders. Across Council space, warships that had been preparing to attack humanity instead turned for home. The Grand Coalition fleet that was supposed to crush Earth would never form. Back aboard the Defiance, Helen received an urgent message from Commander Kyle Mason. Admiral, we have a problem. The Council is jamming our communications. 3 of our strike groups cannot receive the withdrawal order. They are continuing their attacks beyond the planned timeline. Helen felt a spike of fear. The plan called for quick strikes and immediate departure. Ships that stayed too long would be caught by Council reinforcements. Which groups are still engaged? Captain Gregory North at the Bellis Prime shipyard. Captain Nicole Ward at the Trellis Fuel Depot. And Captain Peter Flynn at the Mordax Repair Facility. Helen checked the tactical network. All 3 locations showed ongoing combat. The human ships were winning, but they were taking damage. and Council reinforcements were already jumping in. Send the recall order on all frequencies. Use every communication method we have. Get those ships out of there. Sophie Graham worked frantically at the communication station. She cycled through dozens of frequencies, trying to break through the jamming. Finally, she found a narrow band that was still clear. Captain North, this is Defiance. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Enemy reinforcements are incoming. Static filled the channel. Then Gregory's voice came through, broken and distorted. Defiance, we copy. We are engaging jump drive now. Multiple hull breaches. Taking heavy fire. The channel cut out. Helen watched the tactical display and willed the ships to escape. Seconds felt like hours. Then 3 jump signatures appeared on her sensors. North, Ward, and Flynn had all made it out. All strike groups are clear, Kyle reported. We have successfully completed all 12 primary objectives. Helen allowed herself a moment of relief. Then she opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Carter to all forces. The mission is complete. We struck first, and we struck hard. The Council wanted to destroy us during our withdrawal. Instead, we destroyed their ability to attack. Well done. All ships, return to Rally Point Alpha. We go home. The human fleet began jumping back toward friendly space. Behind them, they left burning shipyards, destroyed supply depots, and wrecked military installations. The Council's planned genocide had been stopped before it could begin, but Helen knew the real work was just starting. Now they had to tell the galaxy why they had done this. As the Defiance moved through jump space, Sophie worked with Ambassador Daniel to prepare a message. They gathered all the evidence Commander Mason had collected. Attack plans, fleet movements, target lists. Everything that proved the Council had planned to slaughter humanity. We need to release this before the Council can control the narrative, Daniel said. They will claim we attacked without provocation. We need the truth out there first. Sophie finished compiling the files. I have access to 17 major galactic news networks. When we drop out of jump space, I can broadcast on all of them simultaneously. Do it. The moment we exit jump, send everything. Show the galaxy what the Council really planned. The Defiance dropped back into normal space at the edge of human territory. Immediately, Sophie began broadcasting. The intercepted Council documents went out on every frequency she could access. News networks across the galaxy started receiving the evidence. Within an hour, the story spread across Council space. Citizens on dozens of worlds saw the plans their governments had made. Many were horrified. Protests started on Shenty worlds. The Torvan government publicly condemned the attempted genocide. Even some Caldra citizens demonstrated against Vexter. Admiral Helen sat in her ready room and watched the news coverage. A Vrelian reporter stood outside the Council building on Zentara Prime. The evidence released by human sources appears authentic, the reporter said. Council military documents clearly show plans for coordinated attacks on Earth and human colonies. The attacks were scheduled to occur during the mandated withdrawal period when human forces would be most vulnerable. This reporter has confirmed the authenticity of at least 15 separate documents. The question everyone is asking now is whether the Council leadership knew about this plan, or if it was conceived by military commanders without civilian oversight. Daniel entered the ready room carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Helen and sat down. The narrative is shifting, he said. 3 hours ago, we were unprovoked aggressors. Now the galaxy is asking why the Council planned genocide. Vexter will claim the documents are fake, Helen said. He already did. The Council released a statement 20 minutes ago. They say we fabricated everything to justify our attack. Daniel smiled grimly. But Commander Mason was smart. He did not just take 6 hours after the human attacks ended, Vexter stood before the council and faced questions he could not answer. The Grand Chamber on Zentara Prime was half empty. 3 species had recalled their ambassadors in protest. The Shenty delegation sat in stony silence. Even the Vrelians, who had voted for humanity's banishment, looked uncomfortable. "The humans have released military documents," said Reshka, the Shenty diplomat. Her voice was cold and controlled. These documents showed detailed plans for attacking Earth and human colonies during the withdrawal period. "I would like to know if the council leadership approved these plans." Vexter tried to maintain his composure. His forearms moved in what he hoped to look like calm gestures. "Those documents are fabricated. Human intelligence services created them to justify unprovoked attacks on peaceful council facilities." "Peaceful facilities?" The Torvan ambassador stood up. His species had always liked humans. Now his anger was clear. "You mean military shipyards building warships? Supply depots filled with weapons and ammunition? Those peaceful facilities?" "They were legitimate military installations," Vexter said. "Yes," the Torvan agreed. "Military installations preparing for an attack. The humans simply attacked first." Reshka spoke again. "I have had independent analysts examine the released documents. They are authentic. The authentication codes match Council military systems. The timestamps are correct. The signatures are verified. These are real Council documents, Leader Vexter." "Then they were stolen," Vexter said quickly. "The humans infiltrated our networks and stole classified information. That itself is an act of war, as is planning genocide," Reshka said quietly. "But please, continue explaining how you are the victim here." Before Vexter could respond, an aide rushed into the chamber. "Leader, the humans are requesting an immediate ceasefire and emergency negotiations. They say they will maintain their current military posture until we agree to talks." Vexter wanted to refuse. He wanted to rally the Council fleet and crush the humans for their audacity. But the reports on his datapad told a different story. 63% of the Council's offensive capability was destroyed. 7 species refused to commit additional forces. Public protests were growing on multiple worlds. The coalition he had carefully built was falling apart. "Where do they want to meet?" he asked. "They propose neutral Shenty space. The Shenty have offered their diplomatic station as a meeting location." Of course, the Shenty would offer. Reshka had never supported the banishment. She had voted against it and argued for peaceful relations with humanity. Now she would get her chance to prove she had been right all along. "Tell them we agree," Vexter said. "But I want assurances that human forces will not conduct any further attacks during negotiations." "They have already promised that, Leader. They say they struck to protect themselves, not to conquer. They are willing to talk." 2 days later, Ambassador Daniel Price entered the Shenty diplomatic station with Admiral Helen Carter and Sophie Graham. The station was beautiful, built in the traditional Shenty style with flowing architecture and natural light. It was also completely neutral territory, protected by Shenty defense forces. Reshka met them at the entrance. Her species looked like tall, graceful beings with skin that shifted colors based on motion. Right now, her skin showed calm blue tones. "Ambassador Price, Admiral Carter, welcome. I'm pleased you chose to negotiate rather than continue fighting." Daniel shook her hand in the human custom. "We never wanted to fight. We just refused to die, a sentiment I understand completely." Reshka led them through the station. "The Council delegation arrived 1 hour ago. Vexter is here personally, along with representatives from all 12 Council species. This will not be an easy discussion." "We are not here for easy," Helen said. "We are here for necessary." The negotiation chamber was circular, with no head table. Everyone sat at the same level. The Council delegation occupied 1/2 of the circle. Vexter sat in the center, his forearms folded. He looked at the humans with barely concealed hatred. Daniel took his seat across from the Cauldrith leader. Helen sat beside him, wearing her full military uniform. Sophie set up recording equipment to document everything said. Reshka called the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the terms of humanity's departure from Council space and to address the recent military conflict. Ambassador Price, would you like to begin? Daniel stood. He had prepared for this moment carefully. Everything he said now would be recorded and studied for years. The Council voted to banish humanity. We accepted that decision. We began preparations to withdraw all our people and assets from Council space. Then we discovered the truth. He activated a holographic display. The Council's attack plans appeared for everyone to see. Fleet positions, target lists, attack timelines. Everything Commander Kyle Mason had uncovered. You did not just vote to banish us. You planned to slaughter us during our withdrawal. You intended to attack on day 45, when our ships would be scattered and our defenses weak. You called it enforcement of the banishment order. We call it genocide. Vexter tried to interrupt, but Reshka held up a hand. Let him finish. So we struck first, Daniel continued. We destroyed your offensive capability before you could use it against us. We targeted military installations only. We avoided civilian casualties where possible. We did what we had to do to survive. He turned off the display and looked directly at Vexter. Now we are here to discuss the terms of our departure. But make no mistake, we are not asking for permission to leave. We are telling you how this will work. Vexter's skin darkened with anger. You attack Council facilities, kill Council personnel, and then demand to dictate terms. You are prisoners who should be begging for mercy. We are the ones with working warships, Helen said quietly. You are the ones with burning shipyards. Perhaps you should remember that before you talk about prisoners. The room went silent. Other Council members shifted uncomfortably. The truth was obvious to everyone. The military balance had shifted dramatically. Humanity had struck hard and struck smart. The Council's advantage was gone. A Vrelian representative spoke. What are your terms? Daniel pulled up a document. First, Earth and all human colonies will complete withdrawal from Council space within 90 days, as originally ordered. However, we withdraw our military forces last, not first. We maintain defensive positions until all civilians are safe. Several Council members nodded. That was reasonable. Second, all human colonies outside Council space remain independent and sovereign. You do not claim them. You do not tax them. You do not interfere with them in any way. Any attempt to do so will be considered an act of war. Those colonies are in unclaimed space, the Vrelian said. Under Council law, we could claim them once you abandon them. Then change your law, Daniel said flatly. Because we are not abandoning those colonies. We are establishing them as independent nations. They will govern themselves and trade with whoever they choose. Vexter started to object, but Reshka spoke first. The Council has no legitimate claim to colonies built by human labor outside Council borders. I see no reason to oppose this term. Third, Daniel continued, during the 6-month withdrawal period, any Council ship that enters human space will be considered hostile and destroyed without warning. We will maintain security cordons around all our colonies and shipping lanes. Cross those cordons and you die. That is unacceptable, Vexter said. You cannot threaten Council ships in open space. We just destroyed 60% of your military, Helen reminded him. We can threaten whatever we want. The question is whether you want to test us. More uncomfortable silence. The other Council species were doing calculations in their heads. How many ships could they afford to lose? How much public support did they have for more conflict with humanity? The answers were clearly not encouraging. Fourth and finally, Daniel said, you will publicly acknowledge that the attack plans we revealed were authentic. You will admit that a genocide was planned. You will allow independent investigation into who authorized those plans. The truth matters. The galaxy needs to know what you tried to do. Now Vexter stood up. Never. We will never admit to plans that were clearly fabricated by human spies. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Daniel started to gather his materials. Admiral, prepare to resume military operations. Target Council infrastructure this time. Let us see how they feel when their civilian populations face the same threat they planned for ours. Wait, Reshka said quickly. She looked at the other council members. Several of them were already whispering among themselves. Perhaps we should vote on these terms. Leader Vexter does not speak for the entire council. Vexter glared at her. I am council leader. I represent all of us. You represent the Coldrith, a Mrilax representative said. Not all of us. I move we vote on humanity's terms individually. The vote was called. Daniel sat back down and watched. This was the critical moment. If the council rejected the terms, the war would continue. More people would die. Maybe Earth itself would burn before it ended. But if they accepted, humanity would have a path forward. They would leave council space, but keep their independence. They would show the galaxy that humans could not be crushed or controlled. The first vote addressed the withdrawal timeline. 6 months after the war, Daniel Price stood in his office in Geneva and watched the news coverage from across the galaxy. The withdrawal was 95% complete. Human colonies in council space had been packed up and moved. Ships had departed. Military installations had been dismantled. Earth was keeping its promise, but the galaxy had changed in those 6 months. Sophie. Graham entered his office carrying a stack of reports. She was now his chief of staff, promoted after her intelligence work during the crisis. Ambassador, you need to see these. 3 more species have requested formal meetings with Earth. Daniel took the reports and read through them. The Kelvin, a small species from the outer rim. The Horthic, traders who had stayed neutral during the conflict. And the Varani, a young civilization that had just achieved faster-than-light travel. They all want the same thing, Sophie said. They want to know if Earth would be interested in forming alternative alliances outside Council control. Daniel smiled. How many requests have we received total? 17 in the past month. 5 more species have sent informal inquiries. They watched what we did. They saw us stand up to the Council and survive. Now they want to know if we can help them do the same. We are not trying to build an empire. I know, but we are building something. These species see an alternative to Council dominance. They see a future where they can be truly independent. Daniel walked to the window. Below, the streets of Geneva were busy with normal life. People went to work. Children played in parks. 6 months ago, those same people had been hours away from annihilation. Now they lived and dreamed and built futures because humanity had refused to die quietly. Set up the meetings, Daniel said. We will talk with them. But we make it clear from the start. We offer partnership, not dominance. We help them stay free, not make them dependent on us. Understood. There is one more thing. Sophie pulled up a document on her datapad. President Ellis wants you to lead a new organization, the Independent Systems Coalition. It would be an alternative to the Council based on mutual defense and respect for sovereignty. That is a big job. You gave the order that saved humanity. You negotiated our peaceful withdrawal. You convinced the Council to admit their genocide plan. If anyone can build this new coalition, it is you. Daniel thought about it. 6 months ago, He had been a simple ambassador trying to keep humanity's place in the Council. Now he was being asked to help build something entirely new. A new order among the stars. Tell the President I accept. On the bridge of the UHS Defiance, Admiral Helen Carter reviewed the latest fleet positions. The Third Fleet now patrolled the borders of human space, maintaining the security cordons established during the negotiations. Not a single Council ship had crossed those borders. The threat of human retaliation was apparently very effective. A new assignment was head of Human Strategic Command. She would coordinate all military operations across human space and its allied territories. It was a huge responsibility, but Helen had proven she could handle it. Captain Andrew Cole appeared on her communication screen. Admiral, the Retribution is ready for its new assignment. Where do you want us? You are being reassigned to border defense along Sector 7. The Shenty have requested a joint patrol program with our forces. You will coordinate with their Commodore Velshon. Make a good impression. The Shenty are important allies. Understood. We depart in 6 hours. After the call ended, Helen looked at the tactical display showing all human military assets. 37 ships had struck the Council 6 months ago. Now humanity had 63 active warships, with 20 more under construction. The species that had been banished was building one of the strongest independent fleets in the galaxy. But Helen knew military strength was not enough. They needed the alliances Daniel was building. They needed trade relationships and diplomatic partnerships. Military power without broader support was just waiting for a larger enemy to appear. Commander Kyle Mason entered her ready room. He had been promoted to Director of Human Intelligence Services, a new organization created after the war. Admiral, you asked for an update on Council internal politics. What is happening with Vexter? He is finished. The investigation found that he personally authorized the genocide plan along with military commanders from 6 other species. The Caldrith government removed him from power 2 weeks ago. He's facing trial for war crimes. Helen felt satisfaction at that news. And the other species involved? 3 have had leadership changes. 2 are still investigating. 1 refuses to admit any involvement despite clear evidence. The Council is fractured. There is talk of major reforms to prevent this kind of secret military planning in the future. Will they succeed? Kyle shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But the important thing is that the Council's image of invincibility is broken. Small species are no longer afraid to question their authority. That changes everything. On Earth, President Margaret Ellis addressed the United Earth Assembly for what would be her final speech as president. Her term was ending, and she had chosen not to run for re-election. She looked tired but satisfied. 6 months ago, I authorized an act of war. I gave Admiral Carter permission to strike first against the Council. That decision has defined my presidency and will define my legacy. Some call me a hero. Others call me a warmonger. I call myself a leader who did what was necessary to save our species. She paused and looked at the assembly members. We have completed our withdrawal from Council space. Not a single human remains in their territory, except for our diplomats who work to maintain peaceful relations with the species who still want them. We kept our word. We did what they asked. But we did not do it as victims. We did it as free people making our own choices. We struck before they gave the order, and in doing so, we saved billions of lives. I have no regrets. Now we begin a new chapter. The Independent Systems Coalition grows stronger every day. 17 species have joined us. More will come. We are building something new in this galaxy. Something based on freedom and mutual respect rather than dominance and fear. To my successor, I say this. Guard our independence. Maintain our strength. But never forget that our greatest weapon is not our ships. It is our willingness to stand up for what is right, even when the cost is high. The assembly gave her a standing ovation. Margaret stepped down from the podium and walked out of the chamber. Her work was done. Others would carry it forward now. In the Shenty capital, diplomat Reshka met with her government's leadership council. They sat in a circular chamber, much like the one on Zentara Prime, but the atmosphere was completely different. The Shenty valued truth and honor above all else. The humans have completed their withdrawal, Reshka reported. They maintained perfect discipline. No incidents. No violations of the agreement. They proved they can be trusted to keep their word. And the coalition they are building? Her supervisor asked. It grows. Our intelligence suggests 20 species are now in serious talks about joining. The humans offer something the Council never did. True partnership. They do not demand tribute. They do not impose their culture. They simply offer mutual defense and trade relationships. Should we join them? Reshka considered carefully. I believe we should maintain formal relations with both the Council and the Coalition. We can be a bridge between them. But yes, I recommend we establish a formal alliance with Earth. They have proven themselves worthy partners. The Council debated for an hour before voting. The decision was unanimous. The Shenty Confederacy would be the first major power to formally ally with the Independent Systems Coalition. When the announcement came, it sent shockwaves through galactic politics. The Shenty were old, respected, and powerful. Their endorsement gave the coalition instant credibility. 3 more species joined within a week. On Zentara Prime, the new council leaders stood before the assembled species and admitted what everyone already knew. The previous leadership made terrible mistakes. They allowed fear and pride to drive policy rather than wisdom and justice. They planned genocide against a species that had done nothing except refuse to be weak. The humans struck first. They crippled our military. They exposed our crimes. They forced us to face the truth about ourselves. Many of you see this as defeat. I see it as a necessary lesson. We cannot rule the galaxy through fear. We cannot maintain peace through planned violence. The age of council dominance is over. We must now learn to be one power among many, not the only power that matters. Not everyone agreed. Several species left the council entirely over the following months. But others stayed and worked toward reform. The council would survive, but it would never be the same. 2 years after the war, Daniel walked through a new space station orbiting a world called Haven. This was the first capital of the Independent Systems Coalition. The station had been built by 7 species working together. Human engineers worked beside Shenty architects and Kelvin technicians. Sophie walked with him through the corridors. We have 43 member species now. 12 more in negotiation to join. The coalition covers 1/3 of known space, and the council still exists, still powerful in their core territories. But they lost 6 species, and their military strength is half what it was. They are no longer the dominant force they once were. Daniel stopped at a viewport and,